podcast, and welcome back to another episode where we have an amazing guest where I'm going to do my cringy drum roll. Tiara, she is absolutely amazing Christian influencer on TikTok, making me laugh and closer to God at the same time. And literally, we were just talking before the podcast about the podcast and how different and how spicy we're going to spice it up. So I'm going to get her introduce herself and tell you guys a little bit more about herself.
Okay. Hi, my name's Tiara Bolden. I'm from Oregon, and I recently decided that I wanted to become a Christian influencer I'd say about 6 months ago. Yeah. Oh, and I'm a college athlete as well.
Oh, cool. Okay, tell us more. College athlete. Period.
Okay. I play basketball in Arizona, so it's completely different from like the competition and stuff that I experience in Oregon, and it definitely made me test my faith. I can just say that. We'll get a little deeper into it. But yeah, go ahead.
No, how? Like, I'm very interested.
It made me like I don't know how to explain it. Like, just going through, like, the motions, like, during the season really made me believe whether or not God was really there with me and not. But he really showed himself to me this season. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's amazing. How did he show himself? Completely immerse yourself in the podcast.
So beforehand, before I even knew that I was going to go to the school, I was told throughout my entire, like, basketball life throughout high school that I wasn't going to be anything. I had people, even coaches that coached me in high school, came up to tell me that I was going to be nothing. I'm not even going to make it to the nearest community college, which, after high school, there is a local community college. It's called Lane Community College. Everybody goes there to play basketball if they don't get really recruited or stuff like that. So they said I wasn't even going to make it there. Wow. So for them to tell me that, I'm like, wow, like, it broke me. Like, people told me that I needed to be more like somebody else that I was related to who was also, like, the star player on that team. They said I need to be at least like her in order to have a chance to make it. So I remember this, like, really, like, vividly. I remember that after she told me that head coach at the time, I went home crying. I was like, okay, well, I'm not coming back. I'm gonna quit, because they were like, we don't need you and we don't want you. And I remember calling my cousin, who was pretty much like my brother, and he was like, why are you gonna let them win? Because they were telling you what you are. So why are you believing it? You can either believe it or you can disregard it and prove them wrong. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to bust my butt off so that way next year, when next year comes around, they won't be able to tell me what I'm not or what I am and have me believe it. So ever since then, I've been busting my butt off. And sophomore year, ended up making varsity. In the first year, we made it to state, right? Mm-hmm. I got honorable mention my first year on varsity.
Period!
Thank you. But didn't stop there, and I was like, wow, like, from someone else telling me that, like, they didn't want me, to having someone, like, having my name literally be in the paper, like, that's crazy. So junior year comes along, and of course there's a new coach. He came from winning a state title with his old high school team before he transferred to my school, and I don't think he really had a lot of faith in me, because he was one of the people that told me I wasn't going to make it. So I ended up making first team the next year when we made it to state. So I was so I was like, this is crazy. And having people around me saying, like, oh, wow, like, you're probably going to make it somewhere. But I still had the AD at my school. I still had my coach be like, nope, after high school, you're just done. Like, you might as well quit. Until senior year rolled around, I was like, okay, well, now this is the time where I have to get recruited. This is the time where I actually have to believe and lead the team, because I was a junior at the time. I had someone else lead the team already, so I'm like, okay, now it's my year to finally lead. And since it was COVID, we really didn't get to have like a state tournament. So during this time, I was like, okay, I'm starting to learn how to lead people, and I started to get into my word a lot more. And until I finally told God, I was like, I'm ready to have you lead me. Like, I don't want to lead. Like, I want you to lead me through this year. So I asked that you, what did I say? I was like, I asked that you give me the abilities that I need in order to lead. And that included wisdom as well. And ever since then, we were undefeated. We lost one game to this team that, I mean, they doubted me as well. I'm gonna be honest. We got 30-pieced by them. We lost by 30 the first game. But after that, like, my coach still didn't really have a lot of faith in me, because usually when I make a mistake, I get taken out the game. And that doesn't really happen. Like, that happens, but for me, it was after every little mistake. But for somebody else, it was completely different. And so, once that happened, I was like, man, like, what's wrong with me? Like, why is it that you're treating me differently from everybody else? But hence, I was also the only African American on the team. So that was a little bit too. But once I finally decided to, like, sit back and was like, I had another talk. I was like, okay, I trust you. But then when I started getting into my own doubts, it kind of intervened with the way that I was trusting God. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to just relax. You take it for real. And we became undefeated. And my coach, finally, the one that told me I wasn't going to be anything, told me, I'm proud of you. Thank you for everything that you've done. And I'm like, wait a minute, like, why are you telling me this? Because you told me I was nothing for all this time. But after that happened, I got offered a full ride scholarship to the school that I'm currently going to now, at Eastern Arizona.
Period. I keep saying like, period, but it's annoying.
You're all good. But they were like, we want you. And I was like, wait, like, someone actually wants me? But they're like, no, like, we will give you everything. You just have to come here. So I'm like, I was like, this is just a God-given. For just...
Only could be.
I was like, no one else believed in me. I felt as if no one believed in me. But he gave me an opportunity to get to know him a lot more. But just to show him that all things are possible only if it's through him.
That is... Honestly, that was like... I told you, like, there are so many, like, stories out there, and, like, another one right now, I was so shocked and amazed to hear, because a lot of people think that God doesn't see their struggles, and, like, he doesn't hear their struggles, which is a complete lie. And I feel like you said, with those, like, when doubts intervene, that's what it always is, like, God doesn't care anymore. Like, I'm not winning we started off strong, but those are the things needed. He always puts us in this position where we need to rely on him. And hearing you say that, you was just like, here, take it. Like, I'm giving it all to you. I feel like that's what that's all he wants to hear from us. And I suck at that because I'm like very anxious, and I just feel like, okay, I need to do this. I need to do this. I got all this stuff to do, and I'm overwhelming myself with something that is lightweight to God, and God can easily do.
And also in 1 Peter 5:7, it literally says to cast your anxieties onto him. Because for me in high school, and then to like the beginning, like end of freshman year, I'd say, like towards like the middle, I struggled badly with anxiety. And like anxiety on like the basketball court also made me lose my confidence as well. So from my point of view, I think that when oh my gosh, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Let's see if we could jog your memory. Basketball court, anxiety, lack of confidence. Yeah, I think that's what you said. You was
What did you say?
Oh, I was talking about my anxiety, and talking about like how I'm like just this person who has to get this, and this done, and I get super overwhelmed, especially
Okay,
in times like that.
I'm gonna give you some of the best advice
Yeah.
probably ever give you. If you make God bigger, everything around you, including all of your troubles, your anxieties, are going to appear a lot smaller.
Oh, that's
So
good.
when you decide to prioritize him and make him like your number one priority, and when you ask him, because he said that he will literally carry your anxieties and your stresses on his back, because that's why he died on the cross too.
Yep. He said,
So,
give me the yoke.
but yeah,
Nice, light and easy.
absolutely, it'll make your load a lot lighter, and that's
Yeah.
what I had to learn.
No, you are completely right. That was absolutely an amazing story, especially toning into like when you're talking about like race, in that as a Christian, like we're expected to be persecuted, but it's even worse. Like before you even get to that point, just the way you look is what is causing persecution in itself. How did that feel?
Being persecuted, I'm gonna be honest, it hurt a lot. Persecution, it don't feel nice, I'm gonna be honest.
No.
Like, I feel as if once I fully, like, committed my life to him, there were so many people that were cut out of my life just because I decided to give my life to him. And he said in the book of John, chapter 15, I think it's 18, where it says that, where it pretty much talks about how since Jesus was persecuted, don't you think you're going to be persecuted too? So I always wondered what that really meant until I experienced it. I decided to fully live for him. I lost all of my friends that I thought were my friends. And he heard conversations that I didn't. I'm not going to throw him underneath the bus, but like because I didn't, I heard them too, and that also helped me open my eyes to realize that it's literally okay to be isolated. Not necessarily by yourself, because God said that he's never going to leave nor forsake you. So he's really right next to you the whole time when you think that no one else is around you. So once I realized that I was in an isolation season, that made me think, okay, sometimes it's okay with you and God just being best friends. You don't have to have anybody else but God sometimes, and that's okay. And I don't think a lot of people understand that being isolated, it's not a curse and it's not a punishment. It's basically a room for growth. Like, he is forming you and he's molding you into the person that he knows that you can become. So he wants to make sure that you're ready for any and every opportunity that is given to you. Because in that time, you're learning to grow yourself in a way.
That was so good. I agree. I know I had like a similar situation where like everything that I thought was important to me was snatched. And that was fine at the time. Well, no, it wasn't fine at the time. It actually sucked. I'm not even gonna pretend.
No, yeah.
It sucked. Because then I'm just like, okay, I'm sad, I'm depressed. All of this is gone now. And what am I supposed to do? I have to enjoy my own company now.
I know.
And so
definitely something.
But like even in time like that time of isolation, I found myself immersing myself like more into church and the word and listening and trying to find out what exactly is God trying to tell me, because sometimes he needs to put us in that spot of isolation to just get us to listen to him.
Absolutely.
We have so much noise around us, and our friends can be so much noise, and the world can surround us with so much background noise that we don't even focus in on the one thing that we're supposed to be listening to. And so, which marks a whole new chapter of distractions and lack of intentionality when it comes to our relationship with God. And so I completely agree. Isolation is definitely needed. And like, even when you mentioned that he's molding you, when you think of artists on a regular day basis, they always isolate themselves. You never see a musician honing their talent in a the crazy ones, but in a studio full of people. You see them alone. You see them focused. You see them concentrating. And so that definitely, what you said just now, definitely opened my eyes up to a lot about growth.
Oh, I'm glad.
Oh no, of course. So talk to us more about like when you knew you wanted to be a Christian influencer. What happened in like those 6 months?
Oh, so much. Oh my gosh. Okay. So beforehand, before I actually like wanted to devote my life to Christ, my niece actually was wanting to be a Christian influencer. So she posted on TikTok about her testimony and how God has been so good to her and stuff. And at first I was like, you're weird. And I'm like, I'm Christian too. I was thinking like, yeah, I'm Christian too. I go to church every Sunday. I don't read my word, but I attend church every Sunday. I try my best not to cuss, do all that type of stuff. But she was out here posting stuff, saying how good how good God has been to her. And I'm just over here laughing at her because I'm like, this girl is tripping. Like, she's ridiculous. But it was until I decided to just give my life to him. Because honestly, if I didn't give my life to him, I probably wouldn't be here where I am today. And that was when I was like, maybe you're not crazy after all. I'm like, maybe you're not as crazy as I thought you were. So let me try it. So I did. I posted one video, and I mean, it got 100 likes. I'm like, okay, it's not that bad. But I was so consumed at first with getting as many people as I can to me instead of just continuing to do my thing and then just allow God to do the rest. Like, for people because I pop up on everyone's For You page now. Everyone tells me, like I have to block you or I have to press not interested, but you still pop up on my For You page with these Bible scriptures. And I'm like, maybe God's trying to tell you something too. You never know. Everybody needs a little bit of Jesus. But, that was when I really wanted to, once other people started texting me, there's even like a message that I got recently and people were like, you don't understand how much that you have helped me get out of my situation. And this girl shared me like part of her testimony and she was like, I don't know if being a Christian was the right way to go because there's so many other religions. How do you know that this is the right one? And I was like, well, I mean, he said that he's the way, the truth, and the life, but not any other religions say that. But also, it's like, once you take a leap of faith and take that step, he will literally carry you the rest of the way. I don't remember exactly what I said on the top of my head, but she was like, since I saw your TikTok, like, you have literally changed my perspective on how I saw God. I was like, my funny TikToks? I'm like, that's crazy. That was so crazy to me. But once I finally got that message, I was like, that was God using me. I think God is trying to make me. I asked him to make me his vessel. So I think that's what's happening in the process, and I could never be more grateful for that.
That's amazing, because like the more you talk about like this social media aspect, I know that there has been like this huge debate on Christian influencers, whether they are a Christian and an influencer or an influencer first and they just make Christian content. And so
that's good.
A lot of people are getting those things mixed up, and I'm glad that you kind of like delved into that, because once you see like the likes, you see the virals, you see what it could be, are you focusing more on the likes as your God instead of the God that you serve and that was your purpose? And it's hard because a lot of people aren't willing to admit that. They're not willing to say like, hey, the likes are my focus, not like what I'm doing. Yeah. But how do you think someone knows when, like, which one's which?
So I could probably give the best advice based off of my experience. So for me at first, like, there was a point where I was like, before I wanted to become a Christian influencer, I want to blow up like Charli D'Amelio. I'm like, she's doing the same thing. I mean, I can do Renegade just as good as her. But why is that happening to me? But at first I started to look at the likes and I was like, oh wow, like, this is really cool to get all this attention and stuff. But then, like, it never seemed to satisfy me, if that made sense. So I would try my best to post all the time, dancing TikToks, didn't even have to be Christian related, never ended up working. And I feel as if where everybody like actually liked watching my content was when I changed into a Christian influencer, because there were so many other people who didn't know that they needed God. And I would rather pay attention to saving and bringing as many lives as I possibly can closer to Christ, rather than getting all the likes. I don't care about fame. I don't have to be popular for you to like me. Shoot, you don't even have to like me.
Oh.
I just want to continue to spread the gospel, because I know that, like, if me being exposed to that Christian content that my niece was doing, I probably, like, this whole thing probably wouldn't even be happening. So I just want to help as many people as I can, because I feel as if that is what I am, like, what my purpose is, I think.
Yeah. Well, it takes a long time for people to recognize their purpose. So that is a blessing in itself, that you do know what your purpose is. I'm still, like, lingering on mine.
That's all good.
But that leads us into the next good question, which is, like, how do you define, like, success? And I guess you kind of answered this in you talking about, like, bringing more and more people to Christ. But is that how you define, like, your success as a Christian influencer?
Could you repeat the question? Because you, like, lit.
I know. Oh, really? Did?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. What was the question? Oh, I'm reading it. But how do you define success as a Christian influencer?
I would probably say, like I said earlier, of trying my best, like, just trying to get as many souls, like, wandering souls to Christ as much as, like, as many as I possibly can. Just because I feel as if once that, like, happens, so, like, because we all want people to be saved. So starting with, like, friends, whatever it may, like, whoever it may be, but we want to get them as close to Christ as possible. So for me, like, I think success, it's not defined by how many views or how many followers that I get, but how many people actually want, like, changing the people's perspective in order to get to God as close as they possibly can before it's too late. Because the enemy says that, like, the biggest lie that he ever tells that get a lot of people is that we have time. Like, that is probably one of the greatest lies that he's probably ever told, because you never know. Like, we all never know, like, when our time to meet God is. Like, every day is unpromised. It's not promised to us. So getting as many people as close to Christ or saved is probably going to be success for me.
Oh, that's sweet. And it's also a very good goal, because I think a lot of people focus, like you mentioned earlier, on the metrics, like, how many followers do I have? Which then leads me to my next question is, a lot of Christian influencers are, quote unquote, profiting monetarily wise from their work. And a lot of people have things to say about that. They think that, if you're doing it as a Christian, you shouldn't really be profiting. You should be, like, taking that money and donating it somewhere, this, that, the next. What's your perspective on that?
I think so, obviously Charlie D'Amelio, we know Dixie, any influencer that's, like, popular, like, today that we all know, they get paid for making TikToks and stuff like that, but they also try their best. Oh my gosh, girl, don't be that. They be prank. But yes, our cause is, I think we have, like, a great cause to get profit for it, but I wouldn't say necessarily to just pocket it for yourselves, because obviously it's God's money, tithes, offering, you know what I mean. Other than that, though, like, we're gonna need money, like, if we want to travel and take this influencing seriously, travel to do, let's say, like, other podcasts or meeting other Christian influencers, to go to, like, events for Christian people, or you know what I mean? Like, there's so many possibilities that we can use, like, from the funds that we get from our TikTok videos and stuff, and we can help other people in different communities. So I feel as if that would help, pay for, like, the travel expenses. And, honestly, I think if they're getting, like, if other people who aren't Christian influencers are getting profit, I think Christian influencers should as well. In my
I
opinion.
agree. I have not shared mixed feelings about it because one, I think the line is cut when you see that they're using the money in like a completely different way, like not in the way that you mentioned, but like you see they're driving, they have first class everything, and like I understand luxury, I understand, but it's just like I'm just I don't know, I'm very torn. Like, does God want me to spend this money on luxurious things and treat myself, or does he want me to put this back into like just helping more people get to, like come to Christ?
Because he said because it says in his word to store our treasures up in heaven. Mm-hmm. So that way when it's time, we're not going to be so caught up with all the things that we have, or trying to buy a bunch of things to like maintain our little happiness.
Status. Yeah,
absolutely.
Or even like the fact that money is the root of all evil.
Oh my gosh.
Why would I like why like it's just weird because like instead of you giving that money away is you sowing more seeds into the world, like you mentioned. Mm-hmm. But if I'm using this money for selfish purposes, if it's just consistently indulge, I think that it should not be that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that depends on the person. The person, like, if they allow the money to become the center of their everything, or if they remain focused. And so that's just the battle of being, I think, a Christian influencer too, is because you have to consistently battle between looking for validation from God and looking for validation from people. And yeah. Speaking of validation, I just want to know, like, this is just like a weird pop-up question in my head. I don't know why, but did you see the Mike Todd thing?
Which one?
The one like where he like put this.
That. Yes, I have.
What were your thoughts on that? Because I don't know, some of his prompts, it's very going the mile, but that went like past a very long mile.
The whole thing went from going right to going left. I was actually watching that sermon live when that happened, and I was
really
like, jaw was dropped. I was like, but the thing is, it's one thing to spit, and it's one thing to huck a loogie. I'm gonna be honest. So when he loogie, like you hear the sound effects and everything, I'm like, okay.
Ugh.
I'm like, social media is gonna love this one, I can tell you that. But as much as like how like that was just disgusting. I'm gonna be honest. It was really gross. But the meaning behind it, like as a demonstration, I think it meant well. But after that, so many people tried to tell or tried to share that. Not even like 30 minutes after the podcast, it was happening right away. But they were saying that he was like a false prophet, and these are Christians. These aren't even false, like, these aren't even like non-Christians.
Yeah.
They were saying he's a false prophet for doing that. Like, just all of the negativity and stuff, and how we're supposed to love one another, because yes, I know we all make mistakes. That was a demonstration that went a little too far. He could have used water, could have used something else, you know what I mean?
He could have used water.
Could have used water. But the fact that it was a loogie, I would have been sick to my stomach. But I feel well, and I just feel as if as a Christian community, like once I saw the comments and stuff like that, saying that he was a false prophet because of that, like all the negative stuff, we're supposed to love one another. So when we bash on people for making one mistake, like if we were to put him, like if we were to be put in his perspective, for example, yeah, you know, the loogie thing was gross. But after that, like, so since everybody was hating on him and stuff, he didn't want to continue to preach. He wasn't going to preach the next week because he said that he didn't think that he was, like, able to, because he was so guilty and he felt so bad based off of what other people were saying. Yeah. So, because people were more tearing him down, calling him false prophets and stuff like that, just for the one mistake that he made. But it was meant to, I think, give more perspective on what God did to the blind man.
Well, and the thing is, I think it was definitely gross. Absolutely gross.
That was
but I think also something that I kind of took from it was, yeah, I don't think you should be doing that. But 2, especially during COVID. But 3,
forgot about that.
Exactly. But imagine how people looked at Jesus when he did it.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's kind of what was going through my head. And so, like, even, like, if, let's say, we were in Jesus' times, and these same people was here calling Jesus false prophet, so on and so forth, like,
Huck and Luke.
Like, but that's what Jesus did. And so, but it's crazy, like, when we read the Bible, when we read the text, we're like, oh my goodness, he opened the blind guys, I would spit, and someone does it, like, we worship that, but someone does it in person. It shows you, like, someone's real, like, thoughts and perspective when it actually happens.
Because when God does it, it's different. But
oh, sorry. Go ahead. The amazing thing about it is the fact that no one knew if Jesus. No one knew. Jesus never told nobody what he was there for. Only his disciples knew. So at that time, those people who were saying "ew, yucky, disgusting," they didn't know that it was Jesus. They could have been ruining their future right there and then.
Absolutely.
So crazy. I mean, it's still disgusting what he did. But if Jesus was here and was like, let me spit in my eyes, I'm going to be like, yes, sir.
But even if we didn't even know, I mean, I'm assuming that the word spread a lot more, because, you know, they don't got social media and stuff back then.
Yeah.
But, if you were telling me that you was Jesus, I'd be like, at first, like, not so sure about it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's kind of hard, I'm going to be honest. Because our thoughts aren't his thoughts. So when we think, we're thinking like logic from our flesh's logic, like logic of the world. But we're not thinking of his logic. Because some of the stuff that some of the stuff where he was like, walk on water, people out here, Peter's walking on water, like that's some crazy stuff. And we wouldn't think that because our thoughts aren't as high as his. So
exactly. But even Peter, when he literally was walking on water, and then he was just like, hold on, wait a minute, am I actually doing this? Like, his head starts thinking, he begins to overthinking, for completely forgot that he had the almighty Jesus right in front of him, and started to sink. And so it really just shows you what mindset are we truly thinking in right now? Mm-hmm. And I don't know why that thought just came up, but I was just like, I just wanted to know your perspective on the Mike Todd thing. That was funny.
I'll be honest, you still be hitting home for me.
I've never really listened to him. A lot of people say to listen to him or to read his book, but I've done neither. Okay. I haven't been to like a mega church or nothing like that.
I just broadcast it live on my TV. So the recent series that he's doing right now literally caught me off guard. It's called Cuffing Season.
Oh.
It's really good. And what it talks about is us being cuffed. So, like, for example, cuffing season, as he described in his sermon, was that it's when we lower our standards for something that... I'm trying to think. So since it's, like, cuffing... Like, you know how we think of, like, cuffing season, like, in October or whatever? But it's like, we just want to be in a relationship so bad to where we would lower our standards in order to have that thing. Mm-hmm. So what he was saying is during cuffing season, we usually cater to something. Like, we cater to our comforts. And especially one of the things that he mentioned that really opened my eyes was catering to fear, pretty much. Because usually when we think of cater, we mean like giving into. So we're like, what do you mean by catering to fear? But pretty much, what we mean by catering to, like, usually when we're fearful, we're like, I'm trying to explain. We're not really able. It's my dad. Hang on.
In this brief intermission, hello everyone. Hi, how you doing?
Okay, sorry. Can you hear me?
No, you're good. Yeah, I can.
Okay, so one of the things he was talking about was catering to fear. So usually when we're fearful, we don't tend to go outside of our comfort zone. We don't tend to, like, we allow fear to control us and to consume us to where we don't want to go out and do anything because it's uncomfortable. But God has called us to live uncomfortable lives. So when he meant by catering to fear, we're catering to us being enclosed by something that wasn't of God, pretty much. And it talks about that, and it goes into it with like anxiety, violent like relationships, like people not being able to leave because they're catered, like they like having that person around. It's like, it's really deep. And when I mean it hit home, it literally hit home. I recommend you watch it. Anybody else that's listening to, I recommend that you watch Cuffing Season.
That sounds that sounds pretty good. But speaking of just like talking about like the world or negativity and things that might be like holding us down or keeping us cuffed, how do you respond to just the negativity, like in TikTok comments or social media comments, any like the negative backlash that Christian influencers may experience?
At first, let's just say I wasn't good at it. Because there were people that would like comment on, like, I would post a lot of vulnerable TikToks to let people know that, like, even I go through it, like, my life isn't perfect. So I'll just give them that little transparent, like, view. And people be flaming me like nobody's business. But at first I would respond and I'd be smart about it. But I wouldn't say I was rude. I was just smart to like dismiss them. But ever since like after that, I was like, okay, I have to lead as an example too. So I just don't even respond, or I'll like the comment because I think it's funny, or I'll just delete it altogether because I'm like, I don't need the negativity. Like, yes, there's a lot of negativity in my life, but sometimes it's like just best not to respond and turn the other cheek, because if I were to turn the other cheek, things would go down if I didn't. But yeah, I just try my best not to respond to them. Like, yes, they can be hurtful, but I mean, if people were coming after Christ, like that comes after, like, that's the persecution part too. People came after Christ saying that he was blasphemous and stuff like that. Like, they're going to be mean. They were mean to him. So why don't you think they're going to be mean to me as well? So
Yeah.
We just learn to let go, live, love everybody. It's just a lesson that I had to learn. But
Yeah, especially when God specifically tells us to, we have to pick up our cross and follow him.
absolutely.
And so the more you talked about it just now, I was just like, when he said to pick up our cross, he meant to be prepared to be crucified with him.
Yeah.
Hopefully it never comes down to that, but it's something that you have to be prepared for. And maybe that is like just being persecuted within the comment section, or someone like saying something really mean to you in public, but that's just what comes along with it. And I know I've had this discussion before, but it's just like, people always think this perspective that Christianity itself and being a child of God is the easiest thing in the world.
Ooh, child.
And it is not. Some people might make it look good. Some people might make it look like it's the best. It is the best thing, but it's not the easiest thing. And most hard things are things that you have to wait for, or things that are worth it. Requires a lot of work, dedication, and commitment, and love. And that's what this is. So now, something I've always been interested in with everyone is, what is your daily routine with God looks like? And I want morning to night.
Oh, so you mean like every single hour, or?
I mean, it depends. I've had someone like giving me like every single thing they do throughout the day, versus someone just being like, oh, well, I spend time with God this times in the day, stuff like that. So it's really up to you.
So for me, it usually depends. So before, like when I wake up, before I even touch my phone, I'll try my best. Like there's some times where I slip up, but I try my best to pray before I even get up out of my bed, just thanking him for waking me up. Because every opportunity and every moment that I'm woken up by him, just shows that he, like, the purpose that he has in my life, like, it's not finished yet. Like, he still has purpose for me. So I'll usually pray before I touch my phone, and then I'll read, like, a verse of the day, and then I'll just start my day. Usually, like, my schedule has been pretty busy. But I always try to start my day with God and end it. So, like, in the middle of the day, I'll usually read my word. Not really a specific time, but I'll try my best to read my word for at least, like, an hour, hour and a half. And then also, like, I'll listen to Christian music and stuff throughout the day instead of secular music, because it's been... That experience isn't really the very best with listening to secular music and then trying to spend time with God type of thing. So...
Yeah.
I'll just try my best to keep everything as holy as I possibly can. But, like, on, like, my free times and stuff, I like to journal. So, like, I'll journal. I'll write down prayers, too, just for the things that have been affecting me in my life. And if I, like, really got time, I'll watch I'll watch a sermon, or I'll, like, find, like, something inspirational to watch. And then just write down how God can... like, based off of what I watched, like, how God can help me through that. And I also did Christian counseling, but...
Oh.
And it'd be... Ooh, listen. Let me tell you, there's a lot of stuff in Christian counseling. Like, it's reality check. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's cool. It sounds very intentional, and that's the best part about it. But even thinking about that, like, you're talking about your busy schedule, as an athlete especially... Like, what does that look like? Especially, I mean, I don't really know what the athletic world looks like, but I would assume that there are a lot of, temptations. There are a lot of, things that could go wrong, parties, stuff like that, if you let it, especially in the university aspect. How do you handle those things?
Just of, like, balancing both of them, pretty much.
Yeah.
I would say... Like, if you really wanted to do something, you would make time for it. And that's what I usually keep. Like, that's the motto that I keep in the back of my head. Because if I really wanted to spend time with God, I can. So I'll make sure that, now that it's summertime, I'll make sure to read my word before I go to practice. When I drive to the gym to go work out or whatever, I always pray beforehand. Because I'm honoring him through basketball, because that's really where I met him at first and got to know him through the sport. So I'll just try my best to pray to him before I even start anything and give him acknowledgement. But at the same time, like, let's say that, like, before basketball, or, like, if I didn't have time during the day to read my word, I would be late to practice. Not practice, but... to, like, some of my sessions sometimes, because if I was late to practice, I'd be running. But try my best to, like, cut things off, or, like, cancel if I'm supposed to go hang out with people. I would rather read my word than hang out with people. You know what I mean? Because, like, I feel like the relationship is more important. Or even before I go to sleep, at least spend an hour with him. Because you have 24 hours. At least spend 1 hour to be with him. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
That's how I do it. But it's kind of hard. We're making it work.
Yeah, and I think that him knowing the focus in your heart is to make it work, and to acknowledge him in whatever you do is what's most important. And so that's always helpful, especially for people who, like, me asking that question is always helpful for people who actually can't balance it. Like, they feel like there's so much going on in the world that they don't know how to make a daily routine with God. And the thing is, we have great guests like you to tell them, like, this is what you can do. These are some good ideas. And so that always helps. But it's a real struggle. I have a hard time with daily routines. I, like, switch them up, like, probably every 3 months. So I don't really get used to new habits. But
that part. That part.
It's crazy, especially when, and this is no hate to the it girls out there or the romanticization of life thing, but I see it and I'm like, oh, this looks so great. I'll try it. Never works out. So I'm just going to have to, like, go with, like, my flow and just be like, okay, these are the things I need to do to hold myself accountable. Because if I don't, I'm not going to get anything done. I'm not going to do what I'm supposed to do. And so I'm glad that you have like your priorities together, especially in the in university. It's so hard when the world is like tugging at you every
Yeah.
2 seconds. So
And also another thing that's like really helpful that what I've been doing, and it's been working pretty well, is setting time limits on like social media, because usually we're like consuming social media a lot. So I'll like do like at least like an hour, hour and a half a day. Especially for TikTok, we do an hour and a half a day. Everything else is an hour. But once that limit is like goes on, I just try my best not to be on my phone as much, because there's so much more that you can do once you finally restrict what's been causing you not to spend time with him. You know what I mean? And I'll set reminders in my phone. I have this reminder that's set for 1 o'clock, and it's like spend time with God. So I'll spend time with him, or I'll be reminded, and then I'll just do it later in the day, type of thing. So now that I like cut off like the social media, so I'm only really on it for an hour, it just gives me a lot more time in my day to finally like spend time with him if I want to, or like go on a drive and do a Bible study, or you know what I mean? Like it just opens the opportunity for so much more.
that definitely makes sense. Definitely. But what is this? Oh, well, I don't have to ask the question because you already said that you don't really care to be famous, and so that was like, okay, question gone. But that's absolutely fine, because that's such a good mindset and mentality to have. And so my last question for you is, which, like, to anybody listening on the podcast, for those who know God versus those who don't know God, versus those who know God and they've lost him, what is like one piece of advice that you would give them so that they can recognize that they're still a child of God and God is waiting for them to come back to him?
I got a couple. I have a couple, to be honest. The first one would be prioritizing your time to him, or prioritize him first. Like in everything that you do, make sure it's always for the glory of God. And another thing would be, depending on who you surround yourself with, be careful of the wolf that is disguised in sheepskin. You know what I mean? Like there are people that seem as if they're good for you, but in the dark they're completely against you. And you don't want to you want to just make sure that you know God first, and then know what you stand for before surrounding yourself with people that may not be like him. But I would suggest finding a community, and as hard as it is to find a Christian community, it's hard for me, honestly.
Very hard. It's very hard.
I found people on TikTok that are my friends, and they're trying to be Christian influencers as well. If you guys want to, like, if anyone wants to talk to me, reach out to me. Like, I have people on Instagram that I talk to, and they're also Christians struggling with finding Christian friends and stuff. Like, if you guys ever need a friend, I got you. But I would definitely make sure that you reevaluate who you surround yourself with, and also what you stand for before you're entering like a different situation that may jeopardize it, because you don't want to be in a spot that jeopardizes your faith. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just take the precautionary measures and make sure who you know, like you know who you are and who you're surrounding yourself with as well. Yeah.
Those are all good, like, advice, because if I was, well, no, not if, if I was 15 again, that would have been useful. I'm
learning it now.
Yeah, because, like, these are things that people never really tell you. People will be like, altar call. You walk up to the altar, you say the prayer, but then, like, no one's there, like, after to give you that advice, and so you find yourself drifting. And so it's always good to have, like, good advice from different children of God that, you know, always, bless us with knowledge.
I have one more.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Well, maybe two more.
But, no, you're good.
The one that's been, like, stuck on my mind the most is probably, like, don't care what other people think. Like, yes, you know that you're going to be persecuted. Like, what I learned, listen, I was the only Christian on my basketball team. Like, people said that we were a Christian, but I was the only follower of Christ on my team, I'd say. And people were calling me Bible thumper. People were calling me Sister Mary. Like, I was called any Christian, like, name that people have used to, like, make fun of people. I've been called it. So literally don't care about what other people think to where you feel as if you need to fit in with them. Because what I learned from my personal experience is that it's okay to stand out because God didn't create you to fit in with everybody else.
Period.
If you're the odd person out, that's okay because he made you purposely to make you stand out from everybody else because you're supposed to be a leader. You have a different calling than everybody else.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't be afraid to share the gospel with other people that aren't believers as well, because that's really hard. But still show them the love of God, no matter how many times they make fun of you and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm trying to think. I think that's the last piece of advice I have.
Okay. But that is all, everybody. Thank you so much to Tiara for coming on the podcast.
Yay!
I love these sound effects. I love them so much. But I will give her a chance to let you guys know where you can find her at her social media, which will also be on the little background that you'll see on the video. But I just want to give her a chance to do that.
If you want to follow me on TikTok, my username is T_T, and then my Instagram is linked to that as well. So if you guys are down, if you guys want to reach out to me, follow me on TikTok, please feel free to do so. And I'm literally the nicest person if you want to reach out to me as well. I'll try to make time.
I second that. And so let's just end this in a prayer. Hopefully I don't cough through it. Dear Heavenly Father, we're back again, and thank you so much for blessing us with another amazing guest. She has added so much wisdom and knowledge that you have bestowed on her to share with us and just to help anyone listening around the world who's looking for you, who is in search of you, who needs you, who wants to find comfort in you. She gave so much great advice. She taught me so much things, and we just thank you so much. And we pray that this podcast continues to reach out to those in need of guidance and understanding so that they understand that the journey might not be perfect, but it's definitely